Welcome to another edition of Disability and You. I'm Ganesha Singh, and I'll be with you for the next half hour. On this edition, my focus will be on persons with disabilities and sport. Over the years, here in Guyana, we have been making strides in ensuring that persons with disabilities are afforded the opportunity to participate in sporting activities. This is for persons with all forms of disabilities, including persons with physical disabilities, persons who are deaf, and persons with vision disabilities. Unfortunately, the development of those sports, although we've made some strides in introducing those sports, the development of said sports have not been as progressive as persons within the disability community would have liked. Currently, the only team sport available for persons who are blind and visually impaired is blind cricket. For persons using wheelchairs, there aren't any team sport, but there are opportunities for persons using wheelchairs to be involved in wheelchair racing, and persons with physical disabilities in some of the other mainstream sports like cycling and so forth. For deaf persons, they are involved in football and a few other indoor games. We as a community are familiar and aware of what the current international trends and strategies for the involvement of persons with disabilities are. The International Blind Sports Association, they've been at the forefront of ensuring that persons who are blind and visually impaired can participate in as much sports as possible. The Paralympic Committee, that's the International Paralympic Committee, they've also been at the forefront in ensuring that persons with disabilities can avail themselves of sporting opportunities. In Guyana, we have the National Paralympic Committee, and we have a few NGOs that promote disability sport. On this edition, I'll be having a conversation with Leroy Phillips, who is a West Indies and national blind cricketer. Leroy is also trained in blind football. He's been involved in blind sports for over 17 years. I'm also joined by Yutam Kumar Isardin, who is a wheelchair user, and he is involved in wheelchair sport, more so wheelchair racing. So on this edition, I'll get from these gentlemen their take on the current status of disability sports and where they would like to see sports or persons with disabilities in the next few years. So Leroy Kumar, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Ganesh. I've been here.
Excellent. Leroy, let's start with you. As I said, you've been involved in blind sports for over 17 years. Let's highlight some of your achievements so that we can reinforce the impact of sports for persons with disabilities.
Yes, Ganesh.
And your achievements as a sportsman, because you would have achieved a lot outside of sports.
Yeah, though there was a lot, but I think it's a reasonable amount. And you said 17 years. I myself haven't really sit down to think that it's really 17 years when I started cricket at 16 or 15 years old. But it's been some time, and I'm so glad that I got involved in blind cricket at the time when I did, in 2006, because it really opened many other doors. But I think my accomplishment in the sport really has been, the success of becoming a West Indian player. When we all started playing as national play in 2006, when we toured Barbados and then Trinidad in 2008, played home in Guyana in 2009, went to Barbados in 2010, and elsewhere in the years after. Those in their own ways seem like small accomplishments, but they've been big in our lives. They've done a lot for us. And then the ascendance to the West Indies team in 2017 when we played in India. That was an interesting experience because the Guyanese, inclusive of myself, performed well, if not amongst the best performing West Indian players, in spite of us not being
Based
able
on the
to.
statistics I have,
Correct.
the Guyanese were the best performing players in all categories. Well, the two categories.
Right, or B1, two, and well, yeah, the two B1s and threes. But it's been remarkable for the time I've been involved in the sport, and I would hope that it will be an inspiration to others who are blind or have other forms of disabilities to get involved in sports for disability in Ghana.
But Leroy, you know hold the record for the B1 batter, that is the totally blind batter, to with the most individual runs in one innings for the West Indies team. How did that feel when you knew that you were able to achieve that? After so many other B1 players before yourself.
I didn't feel any way special. I think when you go out and play for a team, it's a team effort. So whatever you do as a player, it goes towards the team's overall performance. And once that is a success at the end of the day, I guess you can, tap yourself on the shoulder and say, yes, I've done well. But it's an accomplishment. It's an accomplishment. You can look back at it as you get older and say, yes, I've been in my best shape and form at that time to perform well, to bat long for the team. But I was delighted at that time because the team won that game. They won a number of games during that tour to India. So overall, I think it was a good play at that time. And, I thought I could have scored more, but that obviously wasn't the case when I was run out, and I think it was 7-4. But our next opportunity will definitely give me the chance to score even more.
I'm quite sure. Kumar, what are some of the notable achievements for you in wheelchair racing?
Well, yes. The past 6 years, I involved in wheelchair activities. That is wheelchair racing. In Guyana, there's not a category for wheelchair races, but when the running athletes have a 5K and 10K on the roadways early morning, I reach out to the organizer and ask if I can take part. They said yes. Do the registration and come. And the main thing that you can do it on your own. And I said no problem. And that is where I began. And for the past 6 years, I'm doing it, and I have a lot of fun. But mostly it's 10Ks, and I enjoying it doing it on the road because most times you get police patrol, and it is something motivates me for that I don't want to miss any event because it actually a lifestyle of healthy, you be healthy, and in the meantime you motivate others that come and have fun in sports activities. When you watch in overseas, there are a lot of wheelchair sports, and in Guyana now, I try to create a space. So so it's like.
So it's
you
more
take an
persons
opportunity.
involved
Yes.
to get more. But Kumar, you mentioned that these are not specific races for wheelchair users, but you integrate yourself into mainstream
Yes.
mainstream races. Have you ever experienced any pushback from organizers, or they were always open to having you?
Well, yeah, well, sometimes when you finish the race, all right, when I finish the 5K or 10K, sometimes they want to recognize you, It's like, oh, you take part, all right, that's it. But we have our special event, that is the fourth, second, and third. But if you now mention that, give the wheelchair user a hand, that he did well.
Exactly,
because
some
it's not-
recognition.
Yeah, it's something not easy, but there's sports for this in other countries. But you see, when I don't get that now, it feel away. But the main thing, I
yes.
create a space for it,
But we'll get more into that. Leroy, what outside of having the opportunity to represent your country and the region, what are some of the other benefits of sports to persons with disabilities?
It does a lot. It does a lot to your self-confidence as an individual with a disability, and reiterating that now on this program reminds me of a conversation I've been pulled into just recently on WhatsApp. How some of us gain that level of confidence as a disabled person or as a person with a disability. And it all comes with these kind of activities, participated in sport or people carrying you on trips, on journeys around your community, around your country, and those things to have you have a feel of what it is on your own. But sport has really transformed many lives in Ghana, and it will continue to do so because you take for granted as a blind person when you get put on that cricket field. You know it has no obstacles on it other than the players running around. But as blind people, you know you have to upkeep that level of communication to know who is to your left or right. And then it does more that I myself can't explain, but to know that you're on a field.
But from what you're saying, it helps with mobility.
It helps a lot with your
spatial
mobility.
awareness.
Exactly, your spatial awareness. So it does so much to you that it just transcend beyond a cricket field. So sport is something definitely
But
PWD should get involved in.
Would you say that it open up? It helps to open
Other
other
doors?
doors.
Oh, it certainly does. It certainly does. I remember very well in 2006 when I first got involved in it reluctantly. In the 6 months or 8 months afterward, I started being invited to, workshops on HIV and AIDS. And at that time, I know other stations in our country used to bring a lot of information on that topic. And Blind Cricket started having its players be sent to workshop to learn more about HIV and AIDS and other critical topic that we were previously, not invited to. So those are some of the doors it opened, and then you got involved in other organizations to do even broader stuff that don't have anything to do with sport. Like when I joined cricket in 2006, then I joined Leonard Cheshire Disability Young Voices in 2008 to help deal with national issues affecting persons with disabilities.
So what I'm gathering is that the being involved in blind cricket was really the catalyst for your development as a blind individual.
It sure has been the vehicle towards me being, an independent person who is blind and an advocate.
Kumar, what are some of the challenges with disability sports in general that you can highlight?
Well, it's proper equipment, proper wheelchair.
Yeah, because you need
To do
Sports like
sport-based wheelchairs, right?
But you see, for me now, a manual wheelchair, it does matter to me, because it's like part of a training. So when you get the racing chair, it become easier. Another thing, the tennis. At one time, I went to do a tennis practice at Wolford Avenue, and
And that's table tennis.
yes, and one of the guy told me that on the form when they get form from the international body, there is a section marked wheelchair category, but you see now they just ignore that. I know many forms do come with wheelchair category, so it's like, oh, ignore this. So that is a problem that I noticed. They ignoring it.
Leroy, what are some of the challenges that you would have experienced and speaking to other persons with disabilities? I know you, as you said, you're an advocate at a national level, so you would have interacted with people outside of the blind community with other forms of disability. What are some of the challenges you can highlight in promoting and developing disability sports in Guyana?
Yeah, wonderful question. The growth or the stagnation, I should say, of sports for persons with disabilities in Guyana has a lot to do with funding. Funding and the availability of space or grounds for individuals to rehearse or practice on. To narrow it down a little bit more, blind cricket has faced that challenge for most of its existence in Guyana. We have not really been blessed with a ground to rely on a weekly basis for our players to go on. And just imagine there are other sports like athletics for persons within the schools, for persons with disabilities. They would have that once or twice a year. But how do you continue training with those individuals, maintain their level of fitness throughout the year? The lack of grounds, the lack of funding to have those sports be continued.
So when you say the lack of funding, that's broad. People are a bit more specific what the funding would be used for. Is it equipment, coaches, training, what?
equipment like
Yes.
Kumar highlighted just
Yes.
now, but also we have to keep in mind that the majority of the population of persons who have passed the age or have come to the age of employment are not able to be employed as a person with a disability. Those opportunities aren't readily available.
Yes.
So persons have to be financed now to come to sporting facilities, to attend practice sessions, and then to eat nutritiously when they come to practice sessions, because it's not all about being in the gym and all about
Yeah.
practicing. You have to eat the right
So
nutrients.
you're basically saying that structures
Correct.
needs to be in place.
Yes.
But before we pause for a break, Kumar, what more can be done? What should be done
I
to
think
help in the development of disability sports?
Well, I think they should be more focused that identify talent from youth,
Uh,
and and just create a program that we, the next generation, can take over and play sports to the highest level. For example, there are always sports for disability in our category, and work with them, train with them, and get the mobility equipment, the right type, and we can just take part in our category, and that's where you spot talent, and you can go on and represent Guyana to the highest level.
And I'm hoping, what he said and more will happen for sport for persons with disabilities in Guyana, Ganesh, because the 2023 budget for the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport has doubled, which means what that ministry has done for sports in Guyana, which didn't have much to do with disability sports in 2022, would improve, and they're given the mandate with the funding they have now allocated in budget 2023 to do much more and to even give more to disability sport in Guyana, because we want to have that sport thrive or develop even more significantly in the year 2023.
so basically, you're saying that the National Sports Commission and the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport
yes,
should ensure that more funding is allocated,
for
And-
disability sports.
and there are other organizations that also can play a role. We have the
The private sector can
Guyana
play a role
Olympic
too, and the Guyana Olympics Committee and the
association and so
the
on. yes.
Paralympic stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. Leroy, Kumar, I want to thank you both very much. And I wish you continued success in your sporting endeavors. I'm now joined by Sheikh Mohammed and Sabine McIntosh, both of whom are from the Deaf Association of Guyana. And they've been at the forefront in promoting sports for persons who are deaf. Sabine, Sheikh, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ganesh.
Thank you, guys.
Sabine, I want to start with you, and I know with your stewardship, your association would have done extremely well in getting persons who are deaf involved in sports. What are some of the sports that you guys would have promoted and helped to develop in Guyana and are currently being played?
Yeah. We look at sport in a very wide way, not only including physical sport like football and cricket, but also dancing, performing, even the arts. We look at chess, we look at, well, I said the arts. And so we have developed, we have promoted these things, especially football. Sheikh will talk more about that, but we had a dance group, we had a drama group, we have chess right now, a chess program ongoing at all special needs schools. So that is what we have been doing, and that is, we find it to be very important to balance the academic aspect of school, to provide that exposure and confidence for deaf students.
Yeah, no, because Leroy would have mentioned how much it helps with confidence and so on, and you know that's something you highlight again, and it helps with that balance in the development of that child. What are some of the notable achievements of the persons that you guys would have exposed to these various sports, the chess, the football, and so on?
Well, Sheikh will talk about football. That is his specialty, one of his specialties. In terms of dancing, we had a group performing at the cultural center repeatedly over the years. We had annual performances at the cultural center and the theater guild. In the arts, we have right now a couple of artists who have taken part in our annual art competitions, and who are very successful in their personal development in art. And we hope to have an exhibition for them at Castellani later on this year. And for chess, of course, we have our chess kid, Anaya Lal, who actually represented Guyana on the national team when they went to India for the World Chess
The
Olympiad.
Olympiad, yeah. Wow, that's a remarkable achievement.
It is.
Sheik, welcome to the program, and tell us about football for persons who are deaf. What is currently being done with football for the deaf?
That's a very good question. Maybe in 2009 we started, and we would have developed since then. We do have our issues. We've been working a lot of deaf persons. We're trying to get a feel so that we've been asking different groups, and that's hard to get. The area that we use now is very small. A field is very important if we're gonna develop. But we're trying to work with David Rose, groups in Linden to get more young people involved. We've been trying to get the numbers to get especially more young people involved, young deaf persons involved to learn the sport so that they can develop in it.
So what I gather is that it's being played in Georgetown, Linden. Where else is it deaf football being played now?
Also in Barbies.
Okay. So is there like a competition with all the
One
teams?
second. Barbies T.
Okay.
And other places.
Okay, great.
Also to get more and more to get up those numbers so we can have more people to train, more people to practice. Joel, he is a very good skilled trainer who's been working with us. He's responsible. He's been watching over the program, and but he is out of the country, doing different things at the moment.
So there are no other coaches?
So they're not. Antonio, right? There's also Antonio. That's another coach,
Okay.
and there's also Kenrick, and he's very skilled, very much trained. He's there practicing, but you still need more persons, more involvement, and so
Definitely.
that's an issue that we have.
That's great. Sheik, you would have highlighted the lack of a ground, or a field, or a lack of, or getting more people involved. What are some of the other challenges in you guys have encountered in getting blind football?
Yeah.
Sorry, deaf football. Deaf football. I am still stuck in the blind arena. Deaf football widely played.
Yeah, one is funding for the travel, because to go Linden, to go Barbies, to even over the river to Essequibo, it's quite a lot.
Definitely.
A lot of resources are needed, and we don't always have that. So funding is something that's also very much needed. A lot of us, the few of us who actually have jobs, they most times be forced to use their own funds, but it's not everybody who's working and can afford that. So that's one of the issues that we do have.
So where do you guys get funding, if any at all, other than your personal money?
No, no, it's.
No funding.
I mean, Sabine has been great. She's been supporting us so much in all different areas. The football team is actually the Deaf Kings,
Nice.
Deaf Super Kings. Sorry, the Deaf Super Kings, right? So the Deaf Super Kings organization would have received some amount, but it's still mostly dependent on our own personal funds.
And that's the problem across the board, Sabine, with all disability sports. Thank you very much, Sheik. Sabine, what are some of the challenges? Sheik would have highlighted some with deaf football. What are some of the other challenges you would have encountered with your association in trying to promote other deaf sports? And what do you think can be done?
Okay, I want to add to what Sheik was saying.
Go ahead, yes.
That they have done extremely well with the little resources that Doug has been able to support them with, and with some amount from private, from the corporate community. One of the challenges is that once they're out of school, so to speak, they're far from each other. There is maybe one or two deaf individuals in one village, or in Georgetown in one part,
Yeah.
and all over the place, but individually. So it's very hard to get people together, as Sheik mentioned, unless you can provide transportation to meet at a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
That is why sport in school is extremely important.
Because
for
you
the
build
deaf.
that passion from then.
Yes, and that is where it can happen with all of them together. And I would like to, well, maybe I can say at this point in time that I saw something very exciting on Facebook just now, that the Ministry of Education wishes to have sport in the widest sense, music, dance, different languages included at the secondary level. And we have advocated for the longest time to widen the curriculum, or to adjust the curriculum for the deaf, maybe for the whole disability sector, to include more extracurricular activities. And sport, I think, can play an immensely important role. Actually, as I was coming here, I was thinking, there's a coffee break. I think it's half an hour. Why don't we take 15 minutes of that coffee break and do exercises, stretching exercises?
So a structured
every
break.
morning, a structured break, and maybe make the morning break morning time a little longer, and the afternoon time reserve it for activities such as sport, football, chess, drawing,
All the different
dance,
sports.
music, all the different activities. Remember, this sport comes under culture, sport. You can't separate the two.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be looking at sport and culture together. And for the deaf, it's extra important to have that in school, because once they leave school, there will be, so to speak, lonely individuals wherever they are.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's only in school where they can be taught together. Yeah.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Sabine, Sheik, we're at program time. I want to thank you both for being on the program, but are there any final thoughts, probably in a few seconds, that you want to share before we put a wrap on the program? Sheik, you can go first.
Yes. Maybe we can ask, we could let people know how important it is for deaf persons, Deaf Association of Ghana, the deaf Super Kings so that, you know, we can help each other, you know, as two organizations working together. Before the Deaf Super Kings, we had more people, but now it seems that there's some amount of attrition. So, you know, we want to get back to where we were and improve the
Excellent.
football team, the Deaf Super Kings.
Thank you. Sabine?
Yes, I would like to appeal to the Ministry of Education to implement, to consider or finding ways of implementing the program that they are now suggesting for secondary schools, to implement it at all special needs schools.
Excellent.
It would be fantastic. It's very much needed and would really include the inclusiveness, the development of the deaf sector and the disability sector as such, I think.
Thank you very much, Sabine. Thank you very much, Ashik. Thank you very much. That's it for this edition of Disability and You.